Hello, it's Amy Register here with your friendly neighborhood Ask a Christian channel. Hey, this question is a couple weeks late. It's for a gentleman named Stephen, and I hope that's anonymous for you. There's lots of Stevens in the world, so hopefully that won't jar you to hear your name in a public sphere. But uh, Stephen had an excellent series of questions within a question. And so I'm going to read that for you. And then we're going to kind of take it in three parts. So the long question here is, if Jewish people are God's chosen people, and Jesus came for the Jewish people and the Gentiles, of course, but because they were the main people Jesus came for, why would he come for all the Jews and go through all of that suffering only for them to be led astray by Judaism? Jewish people do not believe that Jesus is Christ. They believe he was a prophet of God, nothing more. So if God's plan was to save his people, and the whole point of Jesus coming was to follow him and become a Christian, isn't that defeating the whole purpose? The main people Jesus came for are all going to hell because they don't accept Jesus as Lord and Savior. Stephen, I read your question and I was very busy. Like, okay, where do I start? Because you have so many good questions, and I believe that the way you have laid these out are logical. And I had actually never thought of them before. So thank you so much for writing in, and also just having the courage kind of to, think about these things in a world where thinking that people are going to hell for anything is really unpopular. So let's talk about the three different points that you're asking about. First of all, are the Jews God's chosen people? That's your question. Number two, what would the Jews have to do to be saved? That's really the second part. And then three, if they're not saved, do they have the same punishment? Is there eternal burning hellfire? So these are three different theological points that I would love to get into today. So let's do the short answer first on the first one. Are the Jews God's chosen people? And the answer is kind of. Yes, to begin with. Let's look at a couple of Bible verses that I think are important for understanding what the Jews were chosen for, because people think about it as a kind of privilege, and while it may be a privilege, it's most certainly more a duty. Let me pull this up. I have my notes here. I thought I had my notes here. Let's see. Okay, chosen people of Israel. Thank you for your patience. Sorry about that, Stephen. Okay, so are the children of Israel who we now call the Jews or the Jewish nation, are they chosen? So the answer I said was yes, at least at first. But what were they chosen for? If you do a Bible study on what they were chosen for, you'll find that God selected them as a people to show his glory and his character to the other nations. So we can look early in the Bible. Deuteronomy 7:6 is an easy to understand one. It says, "For you are a people holy to the Lord your God. The Lord your God has chosen you out of all the peoples on the face of the earth to be his people, his treasured possession." So while God's selection of Israel was not arbitrary, it also wasn't necessarily because of anything they were doing. They weren't more awesome than the other nations, but there was something about them that God thought, hey, these people are going to understand me. We can work together. Like, there's something about this group of people that I can use. And he probably could have used other groups of people. We don't know. That's the part of the Bible. It never says why necessarily. But as far as we know, the father Abraham, the father of the Israelite nation, or the Jewish nation, he was a guy from Ur, which was not into monotheism necessarily. So it wasn't like these were just genius people growing up believing in the one true God, and God is like, yeah, they already get me. He had to teach Abraham and all of his descendants about himself continually. In fact, that's what a whole lot of the Bible is about, is God showing himself to his people and to other people. So long story short, God's selection of Israel was for his glory, and their job, they had one job. It was to explain God's character to the other people of the earth, to show them what living in God's kingdom and under his laws and rule would look like. Isaiah 2:3 talks about something similar. It says, many peoples will come and say, come, let us go up to the mountain of the Lord, to the temple of the God of Jacob. He will teach us his ways so that we may walk in his paths. The law will go out from Zion, the word of the Lord from Jerusalem. So again, Israel, through its understanding of God, how he worked his laws, which explains his core, they were supposed to be a beacon of light. They were supposed to be living in accordance with God's ways so that other people could see how good God is. They were supposed to be drawing people to the God of all creation. And there are so many verses about this, reflecting God's glory and teaching people his ways. Isaiah 43, 10 through 12, Genesis 12, 1 through 3, to be a blessing. Romans 3, 1 through 2, if you want to get into some New Testament stuff. Isaiah 49, 6, Isaiah 42, 6, more in Deuteronomy 4, 6 through 8. I could go on. I have several more in my notes. But anyway, that will give you enough of a Bible study to see what Israel is chosen for. They are not chosen to get extra blessings or to be God's special pet. They have work to do. And according to a lot of people, according to many, many scholars, the blessings for Israel that were supposed to be like about their land and prosperity had to do with their connection with God, not because they were special and they deserved it, but because they were to know him, and that would be a blessing by itself. Anyway, okay, so there's the first part of your question, and I'm looking at a 12 to 15 minute video here if I do a Bible study on the next two parts. So we're not going to do a Bible study. You can contact me for more as we go through this, because these are going to be some deep and heavy topics. But let's look at the next couple of parts that you talk about, which are intertwined, Stephen. If this chosen people, if these people don't accept Jesus, are they going to burn in hell forever, thus negating their purpose and the whole reason they were called? Well, let's look at that. We want to, okay. So let's take that a little bit one at a time. It's complex, but first I want you to realize that Jesus' mission was ultimately in revealing that same thing, the character of the nature of God, and pointing people towards the Father's kingdom. Throughout the Gospels, we see Jesus engaging and interacting with people who believed in God already, including Jewish leaders and others. He wasn't trying to establish a new religion. He wasn't trying to say, well, let's start Christianity. He was actually trying to get the Jewish leaders to come along and be more Jewish, if you will. He was trying to call them to some of the original meaning and content. He wanted everyone to have a deeper understanding of God's loving grace. So if someone was already seeking God in his kingdom, Jesus' sacrifice is going to cover them as well. His message was about relationship to the Father and faith in the coming kingdom. He wasn't trying to give a formula for salvation. In fact, that's a whole nother Bible study, what salvation meant to the people in Jesus' time. Okay, so again, Jesus wasn't trying to get people to use his name necessarily like as a secret code for salvation. He didn't need people to follow him as a new religion. He was calling people into line with what they already knew and showing them that he was the guy that their religion prophesied about. So according to Jesus, Jews that would have been following what they believed, would have had the blessing of already knowing, already being in line with the same things that he was teaching. Okay, this can go on forever. So, okay, let me wrap up the second idea regarding eternal hellfire. Again, if we want to do another study on this, I do have a series that I made probably 3 or 4 years ago now. It's not a super well done series, but the info is still great. And so I can probably link that too. But the idea regarding eternal burning hellfire, contemporary scholarship suggests that some of the interpretations that we've had may have misunderstood biblical texts. What do I mean by that? Many theologians are now pointing to the notion that the effects of the judgment may be eternal, but that the concept of eternal burning hellfire, that people are in agony for literally forever, is probably not what the original audience believed. This perspective helps us understand God's mercy and highlights the fact that while people face consequences that are eternal, in effect that they no longer exist, the actual burning of people is not eternal. The effects are eternal. You never come back from that. But it's not the unending torment that has been presented. And so that's where I find myself believing. So to summarize this, God's grace extends beyond our limited human understanding. The Jewish people have had a unique relationship with God rooted in that original covenant, even if they struggled to fulfill their calling as a chosen people who would explain God to the whole world. I don't feel comfortable definitively saying that that they would be in hellfire, because they are trying to the best of their ability to walk in that covenant. And whether or not they believed in the person of Jesus, it's not a formula. Jesus is not like, say my name and then you get into heaven. That doesn't seem to be what he was about. So God is going to search each heart for their sincerity in following what they know to be true. Are they living up to the light they have? I hope this helps a little bit to clarify. There's a couple verses I'll leave with you to look this up concerning Jesus pointing to the Father and the kingdom more than to himself and like a brand new religion. Check out John 14:6-7. This verse illustrates that Jesus' role is to reveal the Father. Knowing and believing God is fundamental, and Jesus' sacrifices will cover those who are sincerely trying to seek that kingdom. Number 2, I want to leave with you Matthew 25:46. This is a verse. You can read the surrounding stuff too. Read it in context. But this talks about people going away to eternal punishment and the righteous to eternal life. So it's a distinction between the unrighteous and the righteous rewards. Eternal in this concept is understood to refer to the enduring effects of the judgment rather than the perpetuity of the torment. Okay, so check it out and let's talk more. Super long today, and I'm so sorry that I couldn't get it in 10 minutes or under, but there were three big discussions there. So that's all I got for you today. Again, I'm Amy with Ask a Christian, and if you have a question you would like me to try to tackle, whether it's specifically about the Bible or Christian living, I am happy to do some of that research for you and then answer you in video form. Just so you know, like Stephen here, I may pick, if I see the question is something that I've had regularly, I may put it online so that other people can get the rewards. Mary Alexander, thank you so much. I see that you commented and just appreciate you coming by and watching to this humble home of mine with my squash on the counter and my mayo bottles out and my laundry in the chair. But yeah, it's been good hanging out with you guys. Thank you so much. And I'll see you next question.